everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we are diving into the Cane Corso, and I know a lot of you out there are particularly interested in the differences between Italian Cane Corsos and American Cane Corsos.
Right. Yeah, that seems to be a pretty popular question.
So let's get into it. And, I always like to start with a bit of history.
Well, the Cane Corso is a breed with a rich history, going all the way back to ancient Rome.
Wow, really?
Oh, yeah. You've probably seen those depictions of powerful dogs alongside Roman legions and, mosaics and all those historical accounts.
I think I've seen a few of those.
Well, those dogs, they were the ancestors of the Cane Corso.
So the Cane Corso is a direct descendant of Roman war dogs.
Exactly, inheriting their strength and that imposing presence.
Wow, that's incredible to think that these dogs have a lineage that stretches back that far. It's really amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And it's not just the ancient history that's fascinating. The breed nearly disappeared in the 20th century.
Oh, no. What happened? Well, it was a combination of factors, changing lifestyles in Italy, the decline of traditional farming practices. World War II really took a toll on many dog breeds.
So the Cane Corso almost went extinct.
Almost. Thankfully, a group of dedicated breeders in Italy recognized the historical and cultural significance of the Cane Corso, and they worked really hard to revive the breed.
That's amazing. So they basically brought the Cane Corso back from the brink.
They did.
Yeah.
And they did it by meticulously following the original Italian standard for the breed. So that's where we get the Italian Cane Corso.
Okay, so that explains the Italian side of the story. But how did the Cane Corso make its way to America?
Well, American breeders became interested in the Cane Corso in the late 1980s. They were drawn to its powerful presence and unique look.
I can see why they'd be intrigued. So they started importing Cane Corsos from Italy.
Exactly. But here's where things get interesting. Over time, breeding practices diverge between the two continents.
Oh, so that's where the distinction between the Italian and American Cane Corso comes in.
Right? American breeders developed their own preferences and standards, leading to the emergence of a distinct American type.
So we essentially have two branches of the same family tree, each shaped by different breeding goals.
Precisely. And that's why we see variations in their appearance and even temperament today.
Fascinating. So let's dive into those distinctions, starting with the most obvious, their looks.
Okay, so if you were to see an Italian and an American Cane Corso side by side, the first thing you'd probably notice is the difference in their build.
Yeah, I can imagine that. What are some of the key visual differences?
The American Cane Corso tends to be larger and more muscular. Think of it like, comparing a powerlifter to a marathon runner.
I like that analogy.
Both are strong and athletic, but they emphasize different aspects of physicality.
So the American Cane Corso is more about power, while the Italian Cane Corso is more about agility.
Exactly. The Italian Cane Corso retains that leaner, more agile physique closer to their original working dog role. They were bred to be versatile and move quickly.
Okay, so we've got the American Cane Corso, the powerlifter, and the Italian Cane Corso, the marathon runner. But I'm sure there's more to it than just overall build. What about specifics like head and chest size? Those seem pretty important for this breed.
Absolutely. You're right. The American Cane Corso often has a larger, broader head and chest compared to the Italian Cane Corso.
I see. So the American standard might emphasize those visually imposing features more than the Italian standard.
You can say that the Italian standard prioritizes balance and agility, leading to a slightly more rectangular build, while the American standard sometimes leans towards a more square appearance.
Interesting. So we have these two distinct looks emerging from different breeding practices. It's like two different artistic interpretations of the same magnificent creature.
I like that way of putting it. But as we all know, looks aren't everything.
Right. What about their personalities? That's crucial for anyone thinking about bringing a Cane Corso into their home.
Absolutely. Both Italian and American Cane Corsos share some fundamental traits.
Like?
They're both known for their intelligence, their unwavering loyalty, and a strong protective instinct.
That makes sense considering their history as guardians and working dogs.
Exactly. But even with these shared traits, there are some subtle differences in their personalities.
Oh, really? Tell me more. I'm curious to hear about these personality nuances.
Okay, so the Italian Cane Corso is often described as a bit more independent and even a little curious.
So they have a mind of their own.
You could say that. They're very observant, quick learners, and enjoy mental challenges. They're not just going to blindly follow commands. They want to understand why they're doing something.
That sounds like they need an owner who can keep up with them mentally.
Yes, Definitely. Someone who can provide consistent, firm guidance and channel that independence in a positive direction.
So it's all about finding that balance between independence and structure.
Exactly. Now, the American Cane Corso, on the other hand, is known for its unwavering loyalty and devotion to its family.
Ah, so they're the ultimate family protectors.
They can be very affectionate with loved ones, but can be wary of strangers, which again, comes from their guarding heritage.
That makes sense.
Yep.
So for both types, early socialization and consistent training are key.
Absolutely. For both the Italian and American Cane Corso, you want to make sure they're exposed to a variety of people, places, and situations from a young age. That helps them become well-rounded, confident dogs.
So we have the Italian Cane Corso, the independent thinker, and the American Cane Corso, the devoted family guardian. It's fascinating how those breeding differences manifest in their personalities.
Isn't it? It's like two sides of the same coin, both incredible in their own way, but with distinct flavors.
Exactly. And it's so important for potential owners to understand those nuances before bringing a Cane Corso into their lives.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's about finding the right match for both the dog and the owner.
All right, so we've talked about their Roman roots, their near extinction, the journey across the Atlantic, and the emergence of these two distinct types. We've even touched on those fascinating personality differences. But now let's get down to the practical stuff. What's it actually like to live with a Cane Corso?
Let's get into that.
First up, grooming. What can our listeners expect in terms of coat care for these dogs?
Well, thankfully, both the Italian and American Cane Corso have short, double-layered coats.
Oh, that's good. Low maintenance.
Relatively, brushing a couple of times a week is usually enough to remove loose hair and keep their coat healthy. And shiny.
Okay, so not too demanding on the grooming front? But what about exercise? We know these dogs are powerful and athletic. How much exercise do they need to stay happy and healthy?
Yeah, that's a good point. Their energy levels are definitely something to consider. Both Italian and American Cane Corsos are high-energy breeds.
So they need a good amount of physical activity to burn off all that energy.
Exactly. Aim for at least 2 miles of walking or running every day.
2 miles?
Yeah.
Wow. These are definitely not couch potato dogs.
Yeah. Not at all. They need to move their bodies and get that heart rate up.
Makes sense. What else can you do to keep these intelligent dogs entertained and engaged? Besides, the daily runs.
Well, besides the physical exercise, mental stimulation is also crucial.
Oh, right, of course. I can imagine with a dog as intelligent as a Cane Corso, they need something to challenge their minds.
Exactly. They love to learn and thrive on new challenges.
So what kind of things can you do to keep them mentally stimulated?
Oh, there are all sorts of things. Puzzle toys, obedience training, teaching them tricks. These are all great ways to keep their minds active and prevent boredom.
I bet they're great at puzzle toys. They seem like problem solvers.
They are. And they love to work for their rewards.
That's great. So it's not just about tiring them out physically, it's about giving them a mental workout as well.
Exactly. A tired dog is a happy dog. And a mentally stimulated dog is a well-behaved dog.
Now that's some great advice. I love that. Okay, so we've covered grooming and exercise, but there's another important aspect of responsible dog ownership that we need to address: health considerations.
Right, of course.
Are there any health concerns that are common in Cane Corsos? And what can potential owners do to ensure they're getting a healthy puppy?
Well, like many large breeds, Cane Corsos can be prone to certain health conditions.
Okay, such as?
One to be aware of is hip dysplasia. It's a condition that affects the hip joint, and it can be quite painful for the dog.
So it's important to find a reputable breeder who screens their breeding stock for hip dysplasia.
Absolutely. You want to make sure the parents of your puppy have been tested and cleared for this condition.
That makes sense. Are there any other health issues that potential owners should be aware of?
Another one that can affect Cane Corsos is bloat.
Bloat. What's that?
It's a serious and potentially life-threatening condition where the stomach twists. It can happen very suddenly and requires immediate veterinary attention.
Wow, that sounds scary. What can you do to prevent bloat?
Well, there are a few things you can do. Feeding your Cane Corso smaller, more frequent meals rather than one large meal can help.
Okay, so spreading out their food intake.
Right. And avoiding strenuous exercise immediately before or after meals is also important.
So no playing Frisbee right after dinner.
Exactly. You want to give their stomach time to digest before they start running and jumping around.
Got it. So bloat is definitely something to be mindful of. What about the role of responsible breeders in all of this? What should potential owners look for when choosing a breeder?
Choosing a breeder who prioritizes the health and well-being of their dogs is absolutely paramount. You want to find a breeder who is knowledgeable about the breed, who screens their breeding stock for common health conditions, and who provides documentation of those screenings.
So it's about doing your research and finding a breeder who is truly invested in the breed's health and well-being.
Absolutely. It's not just about finding a cute puppy. It's about finding a healthy, well-adjusted dog that will be a part of your family for years to come.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground so far. History, physical differences, temperament training care, and even health considerations. But there's still so much more to explore.
Oh, there's a lot more to discuss. And we're just getting started. And we're back, ready to continue our exploration of these amazing cane corsos.
I'm ready. Before we went away, we were talking about health concerns like hip dysplasia and bloat.
Yeah, those are definitely important ones to be aware of.
We talked about how to prevent bloat and how to find a reputable breeder who screens for hip dysplasia. But are there any other health conditions that cane corso owners should know about?
There are a few others that can pop up. Like any breed, they're not immune to health issues.
Of course. So what else should we be on the lookout for?
Well, eye issues can sometimes occur in cane corsos.
Eye issues. Like what?
A couple common ones are cherry eye and entropion.
Cherry eye and entropion. Sound a little bit concerning. What exactly are those?
Sure. So cherry eye, it's basically when a gland in the dog's third eyelid prolapses.
Prolaxes.
Yeah, it kind of pops out. It looks like a little red cherry in the corner of their eye.
Oh, I see. So that's where the name comes from. And what about entropion?
Entropion is when the eyelid rolls inward.
Inward. So it's like the opposite of cherry eye.
Yeah, kind of. With entropion, the eyelashes rub against the cornea, which can be very irritating and painful for the dog.
Ouch. I bet. Are those conditions treatable?
Luckily, yes. Both cherry eye and entropion can usually be corrected with surgery.
That's good to know. So it sounds like it's really important to find a breeder who does thorough health testing.
Absolutely. You want a breeder who screens for eye conditions as well as hip dysplasia and other potential issues.
So you want to make sure the parents of your puppy have healthy eyes.
Exactly. It's all about giving those puppies the best possible start in life.
Speaking of giving puppies the best start, what about temperament testing? Is that something breeders do as well?
Yes. Temperament testing is a really valuable tool for breeders. It helps them evaluate a dog's personality, their drives, and, their suitability for different roles or family environments.
I see. So it's a way to get a better sense of a dog's individual personality beyond just breed characteristics.
Precisely. It's not just about breed standards. It's about finding the right dog for the right home.
So temperament testing basically involves exposing the dog to different situations and seeing how they react.
Exactly. They might look at things like how the dog responds to strangers or how they handle being in a new environment.
It's like a little personality assessment for puppies.
You could say that. It helps breeders match dogs with families that are a good fit for their temperament.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we've talked about health testing and temperament testing, but let's shift gears a bit and talk about who a cane corso is actually suitable for. Are these dogs for everyone?
That's a great question. And honestly, the answer is no.
Really?
Cane corsos are amazing dogs, but they're not the right fit for every person or every family.
What makes them so challenging?
Well, they are powerful, intelligent dogs with strong guarding instincts.
Right, we talked about those guarding instincts earlier.
And those instincts, combined with their size and strength, mean they need an owner who is experienced, confident, and capable of providing consistent leadership.
So you're saying they're not a good choice for first-time dog owners?
I would say that's generally true. Cane Corsos are not a breed to be taken lightly. They require a firm but fair hand and an owner who understands canine behavior.
So someone who can set boundaries and enforce rules.
Exactly, someone who can handle them safely and responsibly.
What about families with children? Are cane corsos typically good with kids?
They can be, but it's important to remember that every dog is an individual, and supervision is always necessary, especially with young children.
That's a good reminder. Just because a breed has a reputation for being good with kids doesn't mean you can just leave them unsupervised.
Exactly. You always want to be cautious and make sure both the dog and the children are interacting safely.
What about other pets? How do cane corsos generally get along with other animals?
Again, it depends on the individual dog.
Yeah.
But cane corsos do have a strong prey drive.
Prey drive?
Yeah. It means they have a natural instinct to chase and sometimes catch smaller animals in their DNA. They were bred to hunt.
So you'd need to be careful if you have other small pets like cats or squirrels running around.
Absolutely. Early and ongoing socialization is essential. You want to introduce your cane corso to other animals in a controlled, safe environment from a young age.
So they can learn to coexist peacefully with other furry friends.
Exactly. It's
Uh,
all about teaching them appropriate behavior.
so slow and steady wins the race when it comes to integrating a cane corso into a multi-pet household.
Patience and consistency are key. You can't expect them to just magically get along with every animal they meet. It takes time and effort.
Now let's talk a bit about the cane corso's working heritage. We know they were originally bred as working dogs in Italy. What kinds of tasks were they typically used for?
Oh, they were incredibly versatile dogs.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they were used for all sorts of things, guarding property, herding livestock, even hunting large game.
Wow. They really were the jack of all trades of the canine world.
They were. And what's interesting is that even though many Cane Corsos today are beloved family companions, they still retain those inherent working instincts.
So they still have that drive to work and have a purpose.
Absolutely. And that's something potential owners need to be aware of.
Yeah.
These dogs need both physical and mental stimulation.
So it's important to give them an outlet for those instincts.
Exactly. Whether it's through training dog sports or even just giving them jobs to do around the house, like carrying in the groceries or fetching the newspaper.
Oh, I love that. Giving them little tasks to do. It makes them feel useful and engaged.
Exactly. And it helps prevent boredom, which can lead to destructive behavior.
Okay, so we've talked about their history, their temperament, their care requirements, their health, and even their working heritage. But let's circle back to those key differences between the Italian and American types for a moment. We talked about their physical distinctions, but what about their temperaments? Are there any notable differences there?
Well, we did touch on some of the personality nuances earlier,
Yeah.
but it's worth emphasizing that those differences can really impact how you approach training and socialization.
Okay, so how does training in Italian Cane Corso differ from training in American Cane Corso?
Well, Italian Cane Corsos, with their independent and curious nature, often require a bit more creativity when it comes to training. You got to keep them engaged and challenged.
So they don't do well with just rote obedience drills.
Not really. They need to feel like they're part of the process. They need to understand why they're doing something.
It's like they need a reason to obey.
Exactly. They're thinkers, not just followers. So positive reinforcement techniques where you reward desired behaviors work really well with this type.
I can see that. It's about building a partnership with them.
Exactly. Now, American Cane Corsos, on the other hand, with their intense loyalty and, potential for protectiveness, they benefit from clear, consistent leadership.
So they need a firm hand.
Yes,
Yeah.
fair. It's not about being harsh or dominant. It's about establishing clear boundaries and letting them know their place in the pack.
So they thrive on structure and routine.
They do. And obedience training is essential for this type, as is early and ongoing socialization.
To help them manage their guarding instincts.
Precisely. You want to make sure they're comfortable and confident in different situations.
So it sounds like with both types, it's about understanding their unique personality traits and tailoring your training approach accordingly.
Absolutely. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. You have to take the individual dog's temperament into account.
That's such great advice. It's so important to remember that every dog is different, even within the same breed.
Couldn't agree more. Now, you mentioned earlier that you were particularly interested in the differences between the Italian and American Cane Corso. Have any of the things we've talked about stood out to you so far? What are you leaning towards?
I'm honestly finding this whole conversation so fascinating. I think I'm drawn to the intelligence and independence of the Italian Cane Corso, but I also love the unwavering loyalty of the American type. It's a tough choice.
It is a tough choice. There's no right or wrong answer.
Mhm.
It all comes down to what you're looking for in a companion and what kind of lifestyle you have.
Right, it's about finding the perfect match.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to do your research and really think about what you want in a dog. It's a big decision. And you want to make sure you're choosing a dog that will be a good fit for you and your family for years to come.
Absolutely. I think sometimes people get so caught up in the idea of a particular breed that they forget that each dog, regardless of breed, has its own unique personality.
You're so right. It's like we all have our own quirks and personalities. And dogs are the same way.
Exactly. So it's not just about choosing a breed, it's about finding the right individual dog, the one that clicks with you, the one you connect with.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Finding that special connection, that bond, that's what it's all about.
And we are back, ready to wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating world of cane corsos.
I think we've covered just about everything, haven't we?
Yeah, I think so. We've talked about their history, their looks, their temperament, their health, and what it takes to care for one of these amazing dogs.
We've even explored those key differences between the Italian and American Cane Corso.
Right. And hopefully we've given you a better understanding of these incredible dogs.
So whether you're thinking about getting a Cane Corso yourself or just, fascinated by the breed, you should be well equipped to impress even the most seasoned Cane Corso enthusiast now.
Absolutely. You'll be dropping Cane Corso knowledge like a pro. But before we wrap up, I think it's important to emphasize one key point.
What's that?
It's that while those distinctions between the Italian and American Cane Corso are interesting and important,
Right.
ultimately the best Cane Corso for you is the one that you connect with.
I completely agree. It's about finding that individual dog that fits your lifestyle, your personality, and your experience level.
Exactly. It's not just about checking boxes or adhering to a specific type. It's about finding that special bond, that unique connection.
Well said. It's that
Oh.
spark that tells you, this is the dog for me.
Exactly. That feeling that you found your furry soulmate.
Okay.
So yes, learn about the different types, understand the breed standards.
But don't get too hung up on labels.
Right. Let your heart guide you.
And don't forget to use your head, too.
Oh, yes, of course. Always make informed, responsible decisions. Do your research. Find a reputable breeder. And ask yourself those tough questions.
Speaking of tough questions,
Ah.
I have one for you and for all our listeners out there.
Oh, I love a good question. Hit me with it.
Okay, so imagine you're scrolling through a breeder's website or walking through a shelter,
I can picture it now.
and you see this Cane Corso that just melts your heart.
Oh, already love this dog.
But hold on.
Huh.
Before you fall head over heels, what are the 3 most important questions you would ask yourself?
Ooh, that's a great question. It really makes you stop and think beyond that initial awe moment.
Exactly. Because bringing a dog into your life is a big commitment.
A huge commitment. It's a responsibility you shouldn't take lightly.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are those 3 questions? The questions that will help you decide if this Cane Corso, or any dog for that matter, is truly the right fit for you.
That's such a valuable exercise. It's so easy to get caught up in the excitement of finding a dog you love.
But taking a step back and asking those critical questions can save you a lot of heartache down the road.
It's about making sure it's a good match for both you and the dog.
Exactly. So as you continue your Cane Corso journey, or any dog breed journey for that matter, keep those 3 questions in mind.
They'll help you make a thoughtful and informed decision.
And hopefully lead you to your perfect canine companion.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of Cane Corsos.
It's been a pleasure exploring this breed with you.
The pleasure was all ours. We hope you've enjoyed learning about these magnificent dogs.
And who knows, maybe you'll even be inspired to welcome a Cane Corso into your life.
If you do, be sure to let us know. We'd love to hear about your adventures in Cane Corso ownership.
Until next time, happy learning.
And we'll catch you on the next deep dive.